Broadcasting from the Napa Valley wine country, just outside the mystical Sonoma Mountains. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is January 20th, 2019, Sunday. Want to follow us on Twitter? It's at Strange Days 2015, trending with the hashtag Beyonders. You can put in your posts, comments, questions, anything for the show, you name it. We'll check it out right there, the hashtag Beyonders. Or follow us at Strange Days 2015 on Twitter. And please make sure to subscribe to Beyond the Strange YouTube channel. And remember to set your alerts to receive new notifications of videos and live streams. You can find the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Google+, all under Beyond the Strange. And you can also find the podcast of the show later on iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, and Stitcher. And remember to keep checking beyondthestrange.com for future updates, new merchandise, giveaways, prizes, all that good stuff, as well as how you can support the show. Just check the tabs at the top. Remember to go to beyondthestrange.com. All right. Tonight's guest, we have co-author of the book, The Wicked Current, Amy Self. And I'm going to bring Amy on here in a little bit. Just wanted to talk to you guys first really quick about some of the current events that's going on. You know, it looks like we have a blood red moon coming on tonight, and that's going to be really, really cool. At the same time, I was just talking to Amy about this. As a matter of fact, I was like, you know, it's interesting that the blood red moon is supposed to be like almost like a 1,000-year event. That's what I thought. And well, I'm sorry, I take that back. It doesn't happen as often as it should. But I think the last time before, what was it, 2014, I think, somewhere around there, 2015, there was a blood red moon, and we had like 2 of them in a row. Before that, it was tied to prophecies and things that happened after the blood red moon. And I think one of the last times we had a blood red moon was around the time that Israel became a nation. So, you know, check that out. That's pretty interesting. Foretelling events, that sort of thing. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. So check out the blood red moon. It is going to be at 12 a.m. Eastern time tonight. And that's going to be really awesome. So check that out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see it because it's raining cats and dogs here in the Napa Valley. So I'm not going to see it, unfortunately. But it's going to be awesome. If you guys have a clear, clear skies, you should be able to see that. Also, we have some more heavenly activity, if you will. We got a meteor shower that started last night, the 19th, and it's going to be supposedly going on to the 25th. Not exactly sure the best way to see this meteor shower. Every time I look it up, they give me a bunch of fluff. I don't really need to read. All I want to know is how you can see the meteor shower. Not sure why they do that, but they're not really giving me that information. So if you guys can take a look at Google or however you look stuff up, check it out. The meteor shower goes along with the blood red moon or eclipse. That's going to be really, really cool. We got some stuff going on tonight. What does it all mean? I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the news today, and we don't really have a whole lot of time to cover all of it. But I will say, in the next coming months, the show is going to go through some format changes. First of all, it's going to go longer. Second, it's going to go a little bit later. It's going to start at 7 p.m. Pacific instead of 6 o'clock. And we'll have a whole new segment at the beginning of the show. So remember to keep checking for that. All right, enough of all of that. Let's get to the show. Ray Self was born at home on Upper Shawnee in Shannon County, Missouri. Before leaving the Navy, he lived in Eminence, then Bartlett. He passed suddenly in 2002, shortly after the publication of this book. Amy Self was alongside her husband Ray as a series of paranormal events culminated in an ancient object appearing in their home. Ray then began writing in trances. The first portion of those writings is the book, The Wicked Current. Ray passed away years ago, and Amy is still searching for the answers to a mountain of questions. Primarily, what was this all about? So I ask you all to please help me welcome Amy Self. Amy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, it's great to be here.
It's great having you here. And this has been a show in the making.
Yeah, for some time. And this is the first podcast I've ever done in my entire life. And it came about kind of by chance. You thanked me on Twitter, and I wasn't quite sure what for. I think it was for a follow. And I responded with, you're welcome. I'm going to be on your show. And you laughed. And here we are.
I did laugh.
Yes, you did.
I laugh at everything, just to
Yeah.
just so you know. I laugh in the face of danger. I laugh at everything.
Oh,
No,
okay.
but I'm just kidding. No, sometimes I can be chicken. Anyways, no, that was cool. And I thought to myself, that's really a lot of confidence.
Well, it
and I
really was a complete impulse move on my part. This is something that I've had to do for so many years, and I would start to promote it, and then basically my incredibly shy nature, it was the thought of doing something like this years ago was just too much. But it's time. I've got to do it, overcome my fears, sort of thing.
it's kind of intimidating in the beginning. I understand, but when we did our practice run, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
you did perfectly fine. So I knew you weren't going to have any problems. And tonight is going to show that we're going to have a great conversation.
I think so.
And it's going to be awesome. So yeah, it's all good. So let's talk a little bit about you and how this all came about, so to speak.
Well, I really couldn't find a good starting point for where this actually started.
Got to
And
jump right in.
I finally, as far as a book in the making, I think it started in the 60s.
Okay.
My husband, Ray, was in the Navy from 61 to 66. I want to try to find these pictures now. You showed me how to do this. Let's see.
Oh, do you want to share the screen?
Yeah, I want to show a picture here.
There's a share button on the bottom of the screen, and then you just and then you just go over to where that file is, and you can show some of these pictures.
Okay, I don't know why it's not popping up, but it's not. Anyway,
No worries.
We'll just continue on. Yeah. Well, started in the 60s. Like I said, he was in the military, 61 to 66, got out, was in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And in a couple of years, as he put it, honorable discharge, all that sort of thing.
Right.
In a couple of years, as he put it, they wouldn't leave him alone. And he was recruited into something called the programs. This was kind of the underbelly of the government. He was on a payroll, there were operations, that kind of thing. And that continued on for about 20 years. I met him in 1987. He was kind of at the tail end of that. And he had always said he wanted to write a book about this. It wasn't something that he talked about every day. In fact, it rarely came up. But he said, one of these days, I'm going to write a book about the truth of these matters. The
Hmm.
programs are over. He wasn't doing them anymore when I met him. He was on his last leg. So that was kind of always in the air, him writing this book. It was going to be a tell-all, names, places, events, and it would have been pretty controversial, I'm sure.
Now, when you say
Uh,
tell all, you're talking about all the military stuff that happened.
yes,
Okay.
yes. There
All
was a
right.
lot of guilt on his part, a lot of anger, uh, very much. He didn't live like he wasn't like this angry man who walked around angry, but it was there. There's no question. He was a big gregarious hillbilly if you met him. Uh,
Okay.
seriously, talk like this, big Ozarkian accent.
Yeah.
And if you could bring up that picture, I don't know what happened to the pictures. I had them all here.
Right now I don't
Okay, well,
see
let me
it.
bring this one up then. This is
Okay.
1969. And the Shepherd of the Hills play in Branson, Missouri,
Hmm.
it's still there. When this was, before, Branson was just starting to be Branson, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
And he got the lead in this play in 1969. I'm just trying to click around here, share. I'm still not quite sure how to do this. So we might have to take a second on a break and I'll bring pictures back. But anyway,
Yeah, I was saying we,
um,
we can definitely do the all the pictures after break, and we can go through it that way.
right, we can do that. Well, he got this. That's just who he was. He was an
Uh-huh.
Ozarkian hillbilly,
Right.
a very complex man, don't get me wrong. But if you'd met him, that would be your first impression. Well, in Missouri, they were advertising
Mm.
for someone to play the lead in this play, Shepherd of the Hills, and they needed an authentic Ozarkian. And his friends and neighbors said, "Oh my gosh, Ray, you've got to go just try out." And when he just walked on the stage and started talking, it's, "Oh my God, you have the part." So that's that picture because that's who he was. I mean, he didn't even have to try. He was
Right.
loud,
Right. Right.
presence, that sort of thing. But he did that for a year. But that picture was just so the time period we're talking about.
Right.
Now, fast forward, gosh, I'm trying to do my math here quickly, 18 years or so. When I met him uh, in 1987, we were married a couple years later. And like I said, during that time, he was thinking about writing this book. And the subject would pop up and then, I wouldn't hear about it again for months. So in 1999, this is when the introduction to the book starts. And that's where I'm going to kind of use the introduction here as a reference.
No worries.
Talk about this. All
Sure.
right. So his mother, Jenny, who lives in Shannon County, Missouri, and she was dying of cancer. She was in hospice care at my sister-in-law's house. And we got the call to go up there, and it would probably be the last time we'd see her. So we did that. And we were getting ready to leave after a couple of days. And I told Ray to go in and sit with his mom and say goodbye. This was going to be it. And so he did that. And we got back in the car and we headed back to our farm in Tennessee. And he said, she said the strangest thing to me. His mother, Jenny, her friend, she said the strangest thing to me. It was the last thing she said. And I guess she opened her eyes, said this, and then closed her eyes again. And that was it. And it's what's in the introduction to the book. If you have it sitting there, it's how the introduction begins. And that is, Jenny said, "I wonder why Adam Troop never sent me and Bob a postcard from Venezuela." And Ray didn't know what she was talking about.
Hmm.
And, "I don't know, Mom." And that's what he told me. We talked about it. We figured maybe it was the morphine, fading in and out of consciousness. Who knows where this came from? Bob was her little brother. Ray knew who Adam Troop was. He was an elderly man that came into their life when his mom was a girl in the Depression era in the Ozarks. Well, as I put, she died shortly thereafter in May of 1999 at 83 years old. And although Ray knew who Adam was and a little bit about him, and I'd even heard about Adam Troop,
Hmm.
we didn't know that he'd soon seem like an old friend because there's so much about Adam Troop in these writings. All right, so after his mom's funeral, Ray decided this is the time I'm going to write that book, that expose, that tell all. He's going to really nail it to the government. He had it. And in the introduction, I didn't know how to really say what Ray was going to write about, and I referred to it back in 2002 as his rather paradoxical existence. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like hint, and also referred to his surface life, and really that's really mislabeled. He really had a big life, and it wasn't surface life. I don't really like the way I put that, because that this was more like an offshoot, because he did have a big full life besides, all that stuff he did.
Right. Of
But
course.
anyway, he was logging in the Northwest, farming, sawmilling. uh, he built that home that we lived in. But anyway, he sat down, started the story, and he, made his big announcement, I'm going to write that book. And he sits down in his chair and he starts writing. And he wrote what amounts to the first few pages of The Wicked Current. And it's a story, a chapter about a story that his dad had told him when he was a boy about uh, his older sister being born, and how tough people were, that they had to go get the midwife. The Current River, that's what this is about, the Current River area in southeastern Missouri.
Right.
It's the Ozark National Scenic Riverway. Well, the river was swollen. His dad had to swim a horse across, go get the elderly midwife. She jumps on the back, and they take that horse across, this raging river. People were tough, and that's what he wrote about. And then, as I say in the introduction, that he sat it down by his chair, and it sat there for weeks. And I just figured, well, that's the end of it, And I really didn't, I just didn't think that's. I wrote here that, he was never a writer. He was not exactly known for his proper spelling, pronunciation, and grammar. This is just not something I could see him doing. And the legal pad sat there for weeks, and I figured that was the end of it. And so anyway, do you have a question?
I was just gonna say, when you describe the current river,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, the setting. It's Missouri. It's the
Right.
Ozarks.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed in the book there's a lot of characters, and
Oh, are there ever? Yeah.
and 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 the way it's written, I can almost feel like they're talking to me, like, and the way they're talking, and so it's a perfect setting piece is what I'm getting at. So
Well, the way they have him talking kind of transports you to that era.
exactly, right,
Yes,
right.
it really does.
Yeah, and I think that's really awesome. And we'll get to the letter from the editor, I believe, later, because I think that was nailed perfectly, how he described the book, and how he described how it needs to be. It's a story that needs to be told, basically,
Mhm.
because I think this is great. So, and I just want to mention that there's a lot of events that do lead up to what's about to happen next with
Mhm.
Ray, and finally going into these vivid dreams, right? And
Yep.
and then trances, with these people or beings or
Them.
them.
They.
I tried to look at this from a perspective of the paranormal. Okay,
Mhm.
like, there's so many different types of beings when we, like, if you get into ufology, for instance, there's so many different types of beings, star people, aliens, whatever you want to call them. Okay, but they also can take form in human form. And so when contactees get contacted, it's not necessarily you're looking at a gray alien with a bulbous head, big black eyes. They can take the form of just about anything. Sometimes it's owls, sometimes it's people, sometimes it could be anything, and so what I'm trying to get at is in this sense of spirituality or paranormal or supernatural, this is not uncommon for what happened with Ray and the people that he encountered and told him about what they told him. So I'll leave it there, Amy, and if you will, go ahead. Please.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as
Absolutely.
far as the alien stuff. The word alien was not used,
Right.
but it's clear that that's what we're talking about. Um, all right, so where are we? He set it down by his chair and got on with life. We had a big garden. You know, there's always something going on. He had a
Hmm.
sawmill, one of those big circle sawmills. You know, like the Waltons had on that old, the big blade. You
Oh, I used
know,
to love that show.
yeah. So that's the kind of sawmill he had, an old timey one. And well, anyway, this is about late July. This is 1999. Wake up one morning and he's just, I had the craziest dream last night. Oh my God, and sometimes that happens in a marriage. You're married and people have crazy dreams and you talk about them the next morning. Uh, and he was describing it to me. He said our bedroom was just full of people, and he described it as dressed out of time, meaning it wasn't modern day clothing. But he did recognize his grandmother, Lily Mae, and we'll have a picture coming up of that. And half Cherokee grandmother. And but most of them were speaking in a language that he didn't understand. Could have been Cherokee, but he really didn't know.
Right.
But he was understanding her saying, learn the language, tell the story. That's what the repeated message he kept getting.
Hmm.
And in the introduction, the language he assumed was Cherokee because she was Cherokee. But the story, it's like, finish that book I started a few weeks ago, about the story of his own life. You're thinking,
Hmm.
it can't be what they're talking about. And when Ray was Cherokee, but I have to say this, and I hope it doesn't sound disrespectful. He wasn't all into it. He knew it as a fact,
Hmm.
but it wasn't something that he studied. He just he knew it, but it wasn't just a part of his everyday life talking about it or anything. So anyway, as you got to learn the language, tell the story. So this happened on several occasions. Sometimes he'd ask me in the morning, didn't you hear them? Our whole bedroom's full of people and they're loud.
That
And he would,
vivid.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that vivid. And I never heard him. A couple of times he said I was there participating, talking to him too, but I don't have any recollection of that at all.
Hmm.
Um, so I never heard him. And he just tell me the next day, well, this happened on several occasions. Well, I know the date, August 13th, 1999, which happens to be Friday the 13th. I don't know if that's significant. But here they all again in our bedroom talking to him, and he's starting to get irritated. You're starting to make me think I'm going crazy. So you people have, something's got to give here. Sort of talk to him. He said, you have to leave me a sign.
Hmm.
And he said when he told him that they just all busted out laughing and disappeared, and it was over. So he told me about that, in the morning, and we started talking about, what kind of sign, what would it have to be, and then we truly said, we're taking this so seriously. We don't know what's going on here. He's having crazy dreams. Who knows what it's about? And
Sure. Right.
uh, we got on with our weekend. We didn't go anywhere. We live way out from town. And let's see.
I
Yeah, I said in the introduction, we didn't conjure, we weren't into strange religions, and we weren't seeking out any sort of mystical experiences. We just kind of had a simple life out on the farm. Go
Yeah.
ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the setting or the picture that you paint is just so awesome. I mean, I always dream about living in that type of setting. I mean, just being out in the mountains, being away from cities and urban towns and all that crap. It's like that's my retirement right there. I just
Yeah,
I just
I
want
hear
I
you.
just want to get away from everything.
Well, you saw pictures of the house. That's where I hope to retire one
Yeah,
of these
yeah, I
days.
know
Yeah.
that's great. So I'm sorry, I won't interrupt you anymore. I promise.
No, no, you're good. Interrupt. And I was going to say, interrupt all you want
No, you're doing
because,
great. You're doing fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
if something's not clear or, just please interrupt. It's fine.
yeah, no
Uh,
worries. So he's getting irritated.
so he's getting irritated. He asked for a sign. They
Hmm.
laugh and disappear.
Right.
And he told me about it. We talked about it. This was Friday the 13th, August 13th, 1999. Uh, Now, a couple of years before, Ray had a back injury
Uh
and he
huh.
healed himself. And in that process, we bought one of those home gyms. So in an upstairs back bedroom, we had this home gym set up, and he was working out religion. This is important. It plays a part. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He works out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So he went back there Friday, worked out. Weekend passes. Monday morning comes, and it's August. It's hot. he goes to work out, and I go for a walk for exercise. And I come back, and I'm just sitting there in the upstairs bedroom, just sweating because it's August and it's hot. And I hear him clanging and banging around in the weight room. So I know he's back there. And I'm just sitting there. And he finishes his workout, and he comes in the bedroom. You had to hear him. He says, I found it. What? I found it. What you left back there. What are you talking about? And this is exactly how he did it. I was sitting at a desk, and there's a window there, and he reaches over to the windowsill and goes, this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I take it just like that. And I'm getting chills already. I get chills head to toe every time I tell this. I looked at it, and I'm losing my breath right now. I thought, oh. And I look up at him, and he's like, no. And we both were just speechless and stunned. And, you did those, you didn't put that back there? No. You didn't put, no. What in the, and we were just stunned silence. And I still get trembling in my voice talking about it because it was such an awesome, scary, exciting thing. So soon he began to write again, but he wasn't writing on that pad where he started the story of his life. The one that started, I was born at home in a shanty in the Ozark Mountains. That he started getting kind of compulsive and obsessed and strange, where he'd like, where is he? And I'd find him somewhere, and he's writing on another legal pad, and he filled probably close to 3. And it was making me nervous. He got to where he didn't like it because he thought, I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop doing it. And he didn't like it. And that's when I told you that introduction, it says, after 3 legal pads full, he felt compelled to destroy them and threw them into our large wood furnace. We had a big wood furnace that he did that home. And the fire it created from a handful of dying coals, in the bottom, it's burned down. So this had to have been October, because, we're not going to have a fire going. That is my guess. It was October, November. He put that in there, and the flames got so hot. Now, I wasn't there. I caught the tail end of it. I came home. I don't know where I was in town, and pulled in, and he's standing, and I'll have that picture of that chimney. He's just standing, staring at it with his mouth like, oh, man. Because the flames shoot up from the top of the chimney, and there are portions of that roof that are wooden shingles that he'd made.
Right.
And he's afraid the roof is going to catch on fire.
Right.
And so he's explaining this to me, and I saw the crack. He goes, it cracked all the way up to the top. It's repaired now. I wish I had a better picture of it because he did repair it. But to build that chimney, he took old water heaters and welded them together and stacked them up and then laid rock around it. But on the inside of a water heater is kind of this glass lining, and the fire got so hot that melted glass was pouring out. And like I said, it's probably still laying there, pieces of that. He was showing it to me. He goes, I've never seen anything like this in my life. So after that, he decided to pick up the original story that he was going to write, this expose, right? And this is the truth. He dug out the legal pad by his recliner from under the gardening catalogs, hunting and trapping magazines. This is kind of the guy he was. Herbal medicine books. He was so into herbal medicine and studying about it, kind of a self-taught a country doctor. People came to him. He'd make up herbal concoctions for him. My mom even did,
Yeah, he sounded like a lot of people knew him.
Locally, yeah.
Locally,
Well, yes and no.
Mm.
We kind of kept to ourselves, but he was a hard person to miss. People liked, to come around and he liked to make herbal concoctions for people. He wouldn't charge anything. He just didn't have the heart for that. He just was so into this herbal thing and trying to help people. Well, anyway, continuing to write in a trance, the story picked up from right where he had left off, but it started quickly transitioning into all this other stuff. Now it's about, it involves his mother, Jenny, who was at the beginning of the book, and this character, Adam Troop. And he plays a big role in his first book and in a lot of the next writings. But anyway, like I said, it picked up right where Ray had left off, but quickly transitioned toward a different and unexpected direction.
Now this I'm gonna jump just a little bit ahead
Okay, do it.
so people will know we've mentioned Adam Troop a few times already.
Yep.
And one of the reasons for that is Adam Troop is tied to a person named Sam Bass.
Yep.
So for those of you who are listening right now and they want to do a little bit of homework, you guys want to Google Sam Bass Gang. And Amy's going to talk about that here in a little bit. So I just wanted to keep people, informed and glued to their seat that we're going to get to it.
Yep.
Just hang out on your horses.
Well, we're about done here. We're almost into it.
Yeah.
Because this is the end. He started writing in trances and took off in all sorts of directions, but it's all highly organized, all the way to the very end. It's
and historically accurate, right?
historically accurate as far as things we could find. Now, just because you can't find it on Google doesn't mean it didn't happen, or
Exactly.
there's so much.
Okay.
But okay, so then we put this book together. There's a lot of work. I didn't know how to use a computer. I learned to use a computer, Windows ME, and got it all typed in. Didn't know how to publish a book. Figured that out. Bought a book on publishing books. So there was a big learning curve here. And the book designer, Carl Munger, he might be watching. He was going to try to. He's the editor.
Right.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Editor, and he kind of got in character with the time period and the Ozarkians and all that, and we wanted to make sure it was readable. Just because I understood it and Ray understood it doesn't mean I could hand it to you and you'd understand it. To make the flow, because Ray didn't always use punctuation, for example, and capitalization, so there's just a lot of smoothing out that had to be done. Well, we got it all together. There's a lot of book designers, there's all kinds of elements that go into it. Just the stuff on the back, I don't know if you can see, you have to get these codes. That's all, stuff you got to do. And then we had it printed up in Nashville, and there's a lot of copies of the book, but we didn't have a way of transporting them. So a neighbor had a horse trailer, one of those big, long, open horse trailers. So we drive to downtown Nashville to this book.
That's how you distributed it? Wow.
No, we had to pick, we had to have them printed up. There's a company
I got you. Okay,
yeah. File and prints it up,
okay.
But they box them up. But you got to get them out of there somehow, and we're 90 miles from Nashville.
Right.
So got a horse trailer, loaded them up on the horse trailer, and brought them back to the farm, and started to sell it. Figuring out most of it takes place in Missouri, around the Current River area, hence the Wicked Currents, and we're up there. We were camped in the woods, actually. Pulled up a little camper, living on the cheap. We're used to it, logging and all that. And 3 days into, he just died suddenly. And I so floored. It was completely out of the blue. I couldn't look at this stuff for a long time.
Of course.
And it's still difficult, but it's not as acute, of course, as it was then.
Oh yeah.
So a couple things I want to mention. Looking down here. This thing, there's an authentication, which I didn't do for years later, because I was so afraid. What if it's like a fake? What if it's a replica? Kind of blows everything. And I was really nervous about it. Well, you got to do it. And it was 2006 or so. Went to Jackson Galleries, and I handed it to the guy. And he looks at it, goes, "Oh, this is easy." But there's little tests that they do to make sure it's 7,500 years old. And I have a picture of the authentication. We'll flash that too. So, all right, where do we go from here?
By the way, you're getting kudos in the chat room for doing the self-editing and everything. And I also got to give you major kudos for working with Windows ME, because I hated that platform of Windows. I could not stand it.
Yeah.
So major props. Major
props.
It
was a tremendous amount of work, and 9/11 happened, and we had one of the rooftop antennas, and so we just got a few blurry stations out of Nashville, but we watched a little of that. But we were editing the book,
mm-hmm.
and we were just in a hurry, and then we watched a little of 9/11. It's like, we really can't do anything about that. We've got to edit this book, and we just kept going with it.
I'm gonna probably talk to you a little bit about that, maybe about 9/11 and what Ray thought, but not right now. You're on a
Oh,
roll.
okay,
You're on.
yeah, all
I'm
right.
sure he's got some insight on that.
Oh, he didn't. It was one of those immediate reactions.
Right,
Ah,
exactly. Yeah, especially with
yeah,
his military background. So,
yeah, it does. Boy,
these,
they pulled off a doozy. I think is kind of what it
yeah,
was.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. He didn't buy the narrative on the news for one
yeah,
second.
we have a lot of time after the break, and that's
Okay.
we have about 6 7 minutes before the
Oh,
break.
you're kidding me.
No,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay, man, it's flying.
it does.
All right. Shoot.
It always
Well, what
flies by
direction do we
when
want
you're
to take?
having
Well,
fun.
I'll talk about the cover of the book. This is where, doggone it, we
Oh,
really need.
don't worry. Just keep on going the way you're trucking. You're doing great.
Okay. Well, the cover of the book was uh, sketched by a neighbor, and there's a lot of elements on the cover. There's, uh,
The
are you
dovetail
looking
right
at it by
away.
chance?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, the dovetail for sure.
Yeah.
But you see the man with the hand in the fire and the other hand reaching up?
Yeah. I think
That's
we're
a
gonna have to wait till after the break to get those pictures up.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll
all
but
right.
we'll definitely we'll get those
It
going.
all means something, let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
you got
everything on the cover means something, even the moon, we're having that, quarter moon means the first of 4 books.
there you go.
Yeah, so let's see where we can go. Well, let's see.
And I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but the spearhead, arrowhead that you
Yeah,
showed everybody is the dovetail, and that's what's on the cover of the book. And
right.
we'll show that also. We'll get to that.
All right. Well, the neighbor, I'll just tell this one real quick, or I can start with the Men in Black real quick because this is before Ray died. We had a couple little run-ins,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they didn't knock on the door, but one day, this is in 2002, in the spring, Ray died in July of 2002. A neighbor comes pounding on our door. Oh my God, this is out in the country. Goes, there are people on your place on the far side of our property. Goes, there's 3 or 4 big black SUVs. These guys standing around in suits and sunglasses. I mean, it's like out of a movie. What in the world? Of course, they knew a little bit about Ray and thought, they're coming in on you, sort of thing. But what's this about? And this guy was scared out of his mind. Said, I've never seen anything like that. Way out here, this is not the city. They really had to make an effort to get out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So that was just strange. But we didn't see him ourselves. Uh, the next time was 6 days before he died. We were running back and forth between Shannon County, Missouri, and where he's from,
Mm-hmm.
and our place in Tennessee, back and forth, setting up our camp, books, and getting ready to sell it in Missouri. And we were in Jackson, Tennessee, uh, and we had tires on this little Ford Escort wagon, and it was guaranteed, if you get it rotated. I said, well, let's just pull into Walmart, get the tires rotated while it's free, because it was on our way. And so we pull in, and they're working on our car, and this big black SUV is next to our car and up on the hoist, and the manager's standing looking at it. A couple of workers are going, what in the heck is this? And and they're going, there's no markings on the tires, there's no marking on the rig, they don't know what kind of vehicle it even is, they don't know what tires to deal with, and they're totally confused. The manager comes out, he doesn't know what to do because he's never seen anything like it. And my husband knows a lot about cars, so he's of course looking at it, but we can't stand in that area because we don't work there,
Mm-hmm.
but we're listening. And so we're just kind of standing up looking around, and there's a man, and I'd say it was about 40 yards from us, and they're talking, well, who's it belong to, who's the owner? And this kid to me, he's probably 19, 20, points at the man, and it's classic Man in Black. He's just standing there, kind of looking off in the distance, and then he looks over at us, and he looks at the car, and he looks back at us, and it was just spooky. There's no other way to put it.
That
And
sounds creepy.
it was creepy, especially with just utter confusion about what kind of rig it was and what kind of tires and blacked out windows, the whole bit. Well, anyway, those are our 2 run-ins. But you mentioned Sam Bass and
Right, but
Adam Crick.
I want to talk about
We'll get into
the
that.
Man in
Yep.
Black really quick. Why do you and Ray feel that the Man in Black or the Men in Black
Mhm.
were there in the first place?
Because Ray was writing all about him, and it had to do with Sam Bass. It's in later writings, not in the Wicked Current. It goes highly detailed into the Sam Bass gang in the later writings, and the
Mhm.
Men in Black are highly involved with their big heist in Big Springs, Nebraska, all that gold from that train.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, now we're talking. We got some
All
gold.
right.
We got some gold in the mix,
Yeah.
and we got the government involved. So we're always going to get something happening with the Men in Black when that happens.
Yeah, pretty much.
And wow, this is getting really good and really interesting, Amy. I think this would be actually a good time to ask. So going back to 9/11,
Mhm.
what did Ray's impression of that? I mean, I know he probably felt this is totally not normal. This is, well, not normal, but this wasn't an accident.
Oh, he didn't think that it was, uh
And
he thought it was an inside job right off the bat,
right, it
but
wasn't
he
planned
was not.
by.
Yeah, yeah, and it was more, "Oh, I wonder who pulled that off."
Mhm.
That's a biggie, and as horrific as this may sound, he was, well, I don't, maybe not, I was impressed with the magnitude. As horrible as it was, you're going, "How did they pull that off? This is unbelievable."
Mhm.
Um, and horrifying, truly horrifying.
Sure
Um,
was.
oh gosh,
Tragic.
I can't think of the people jumping and, oh, it's just, can't even let my mind go there. That's so horrifying.
Well, there's a lot of theories behind that, and
There's a
actually,
lot.
one of those theories has gold involved in it.
Does it
Has
now?
Yeah, has
Oh,
there's a lot of different theories, and there's also theories on how it happened, and there's videos about how it could have happened, and the person with that talks about it and talks about how it happened shows how the metal was basically dissolved in the framing of the buildings
mhm.
with different explosives that were put there before the planes even hit the buildings. I mean, basically, while the building was being built, these things were put in place already. So it was planned way ahead of time. That's just
Wow.
and that's just one theory. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's amazing. Well, you know what? We're at that time. Let's go ahead and take that break.
All right.
And
Boy, time's flying. Okay.
it
I was
is.
all worried we wouldn't be able to fill the time. Well, we're
Oh
doing
no, believe me,
okay.
it goes really fast. So we'll be right back with
All
Amy
right.
Self, The Wicked Current. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. Don't go away. We'll be right back right after this.
Hey, this is Deb, and you're listening to Dave Cruz on Beyond the Strange Radio.
I warn you, this could scare you, as the sound bothers me to listen to. It has always haunted me. What you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
I've seen the Martians feed.
What in heaven's name is it?
I don't know. Beyond the strange.
Have you ever looked skyward and pondered UFOs, aliens, time travel, alternate universes, and parallel dimensions? Want to explore paranormal activities, ghost hauntings, various cryptoids, such as Bigfoot, sea and lake monsters? Greetings, Beyonders. I'm author Casper Parks, and you are listening to Beyond the Strange with host Dave Cruz. Help spread the word by posting links in forums and social media. Available at Speaker.com, YouTube, and Google Hangouts.
Hey, this is Deb, and you're listening to Dave Cruz on Beyond the Strange Radio.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz, and tonight we are speaking with Amy Self. She is the co-author and wife of Ray Self, who wrote the book The Wicked Current. And this has been a fascinating discussion. I'm so happy you're here tonight, Amy, and I just want to thank you again for being on the show tonight.
Well, you're more than welcome. I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely. So is the audience. They're having a great time, and I just want to remind everyone that you can go to Beyond the Strange and find all the social media links there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google Plus, all under Beyond the Strange, as well as YouTube, of course, and Spreaker. And you can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and you can always find the show somewhere by Googling Beyond the Strange. And this is just one of the great shows that we are having on the show tonight. So I'm really glad you found that.
Is it showing?
It's showing.
Hi. I'm not quite sure how to do all this, so bear with me. Stop the sharing. That's the authentication from Jackson Galleries, 7,500 years old. Let's see, what else can I find here? That's the picture from Shepherd of the Hills. Is it showing?
We got back to our regular screen.
Okay, one more picture, maybe two more. Share. Okay, I'm learning how to do this. I'm getting better.
You're getting better. Now that's Ray, right?
Yep, that's a Shepherd of the Hills. That's 1969. He was out of the service in 66, so he's still a young man. Didn't know him then. I was a kid. Let's see what else. Oh, we're getting into the symbols. We'll do that later. All right. Where were we?
So we had finished talking about the Men in Black and how you and Ray had got all the information to get the book published.
Yeah, and it's just work, a tremendous amount of work to get a book. We self-published it. We didn't have a publisher, so it was doing it all ourselves, and somehow we did it. But there's a lot of elements in the book that I just want to point out real quick. Maybe
I want to
One of the
remind
things
it.
that, oh, go ahead.
I just want to let the audience know that now would be a great time for anybody who has questions. We can
Please
open up
do.
the Q&A, uh, and we'll get questions to Amy either through the chat. Amy's in the chat, and or through me. So if you have a question, just go ahead, ask it, and we'll get to you, as quickly as we can while we're doing the show. And also, yeah, I think that's a good place to start. One of my questions, Amy, is I want to
Mhm.
go back to when Ray was doing these writings,
Mhm.
and if you're familiar with the term automatic writing.
Sure. Mhm.
So would you consider what Ray was going through as automatic writing, where he goes into a trance and nothing else pretty much matters but what he's doing? He's just writing all this information down.
Yes, he'd sit there and the trances, he could go in and out of them. If I had to ask him something, "Hey, where's something or other?" He would just snap out of it, talk to me just as plain, and then he'd go right back into it. He'd say a
Hmm.
copper-colored dust would kinda cloud over, and he'd write all this stuff, and he didn't know what he wrote until he reread it. Um, at times, he learned the term download when we bought a computer. I
Hmm.
didn't know how to use a computer. But that's when I learned the term download, and that's what sometimes he'd say in the morning that they were downloading information into his head.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yeah.
yeah,
I've constantly heard that term in ufology.
yeah, and it was sometimes I had a little notebook that I totally forgot about. Found it when I went up there to take those pictures of the house, and I'd kept notes, and some of it was the downloading of information. He would there's some Cherokee words, and I wrote them down, but it was stuff that he didn't write until maybe a month later. Um,
When were you first aware of all the ufology that was happening? Like with I know with the shows like Ancient Aliens, it opened up a lot of doors to this sort of genre, if you will, for people to get this kind of information. I mean, there of course everyone's familiar with Roswell. Uh, they're familiar with a lot of other and events that happened during the history of this whole UFO community. When did, because I remember, I know you mentioned something about coast to coast.
well, that back in the 70s, my parents uh, were devout Catholics, but they also wanted us to look into everything, especially my dad. He introduced me to the pyramids in the 70s,
Hmm.
chariots of the gods. I'm not
Right,
sure what probably close to.
Van
So
Daniken, right?
he was always looking into this sort of thing and wanting us kids to be interested too. We have this, our faith, but there's a world out there, and he wanted us to be you know, broad-minded, I guess, and because he was fascinated by all this stuff, and uh, I even read "Hostage to the Devil" by Malachi Martin in the '70s. He was on Art Bell eventually.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I had an introduction to all this stuff. Uh, I was into the Ouija board way too much as a young girl. We can talk about that some other day. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, no
don't do
worries. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
I don't do
don't mess
Ouija
with that
either.
stuff.
Yeah,
My mom eventually burned it on, as a kid, I thought, "Well, that's a little,
good for
overreacting."
her.
As an adult, I am so glad that she did that. She was absolutely right. Um, but anyway, let's see, where was I? So that was my introduction. So I wasn't, uh, as far as Art Bell, my parents are the ones that, got me listening to Art Bell,
Hmm.
and so this would have been, I think it was around '97, because they listened overnight and had the little headsets, and I couldn't stay up all night, and I hated that, you'd want to listen, but on one hand you wanted your sleep, but it was so interesting, and all that kind. So I bought C. Crane Company. Remember them? I think they're still around. They had something called a Versacorder, and you could record
Right.
the
Okay.
cassette tapes. This is before digital, and you
Hmm.
could little timer, and the cassette tape would come on. So that's how we listened for a while. Um, and speaking of Art Bell, Red Elk was a frequent guest
Uh huh.
uh, back during that time. If people were listening during that time, remember Red Elk? He was in Inner Hyoka. But anyway, I spoke to him on the phone, and so did Ray, who went into trance. This is probably maybe a month or two before he died. And I got back on the phone with Red Elk, and he said, "No, your husband's a real deal. There's no question." We had sent Red Elk some information about what Ray had written about the world underground in North Carolina, around Qualla, Cherokee Indian Reservation,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "No, the guy is real." So, where are we going again? Where are we going again?
Well, I was steering towards
Oh, I was going to say that
space,
Ray.
space people and how the indigenous people here
Mm-hmm.
believed that there were star people, and that a lot of it ties into ufology.
It does, and the later writings are about that. A lot of it is. I'm not. It doesn't say UFOs and aliens, that kind of thing. It uses a whole different terminology.
Sure.
But Ottawahiu in Cherokee means great magician,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and Nayahi, superior one. They kind of crash landed here way, way back, millenniums upon millenniums. It doesn't give an exact year, but he is still here. When I say he and she, that's the form they took on. This is all the later writings.
Okay.
Um,
When you say
and-
later writings, are these writings from Ray too?
Oh, they're all Ray. In fact, I've got them all stacked here. This is just, you can see this. It's all he wrote in pencil on legal pads.
Oh my
This is it.
gosh.
Yeah,
Wow,
stacks
talk
of
about
it.
old school.
Oh, very old school. Yep. And he even there's a picture where when he signed books, a few that he did sign, it's in pencil. That's just who he was.
I'm looking forward to seeing those reading those books as well. Did you want to go ahead and go through some of these pictures that we were going to get to?
Yeah, and I'm afraid. Let's see.
I mean, we still have the screen up, by the way.
Okay. This. Okay, I'm learning how to do this. Forgive me. I don't
It's
know
okay.
why. Why is my screen little? How do I fix that?
Your screen is little. Do you mean the picture of you and me, or
Yes.
at the top you want to go ahead and click stop sharing?
Aha, you got it. There I
you
am.
go.
Okay. All right. So let's see. We got that.
And you can go ahead and choose your pictures while we.
All right.
There
This
you go.
is Lily Mae. That's the Cherokee grandmother. She wore
Gotcha.
her long hair high on a bun on her head, and that's they just always called him Blind Johnny Go Forth. He's in the book in the beginning. That's who she was married to at the time. That was after Jim Self, my husband's grandfather, died. Let's see what else here. Stop sharing. This is the actual writings when he was writing in Cherokee. Is it showing?
Not yet.
I didn't do it right. Okay. There it is.
Okay.
And and that's Cherokee. That's her Cherokee syllabary right in the middle there.
All right.
And he did not know Cherokee. He other than in trance, he could write it out, and it's correct. That's their alphabet, Sequoia's alphabet. And that was toward the end. He wasn't doing that in his first book. It just started creeping in, and before long, he was writing a lot of it. All right.
There's pictures of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, whatever you want to share, this is great.
Okay, let me see.
Doing a great job, by the way.
Oh, try to muddle through, stumble along.
Larry says that. Larry Barnes. Thanks for joining us, Larry.
Hi, Larry. I know who Larry is. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Larry.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got support.
Oh, yes, I do. All right. I'm trying to find. Oh, bear with me. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's another question. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Oh, okay. What did he ask?
Something that was mentioned while we were talking before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bring it up a little bit later, but I'm dying to see some more of these pictures. I'm sure the audience is.
Okay. Well, this is. Let's see. I'm getting frustrated because I just don't know how to do this quick enough.
Oh, it's okay.
Anyway, maybe we should. I'm gonna try one more time, and then I had all these downloaded. It's just so frustrating.
Do you have the symbols?
Yeah, we
Go,
can start there.
you
You
go
know
ahead and
what?
go
Let's
through
start
that.
there. That's a good one. I'm going to put up symbol 1. That's in document. All right. The symbols come in the later writings, and this all has to do with aliens, although that word is never used. It's clear that that's what it is.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Symbol 1. There it is. All right. Let's put it up. And I'd really like to know if people have seen these symbols before. This is kind of, I had a website up.
This is a good place to do it.
I had this website up years ago, and
you know, I didn't get to ask you, are you on Facebook?
Sort of yes, sort of no.
Okay.
I have an account, but your show is the first thing I've ever posted.
Okay.
And that was today. So, okay. Did I already show this one? Ray logging. Okay. So he was a logger out west. We logged together a lot, lived in the mountains, in mostly Idaho, Washington State, and Oregon.
Idaho's gorgeous. I love Idaho.
And let's see, maybe another picture. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, symbol 1, let's get to that.
Also want to bring up, if anyone's watching Project Blue Book, that's a very cool show. It's got the X-Files feel to it, or Fringe, for those of you who've watched Fringe. And it's set in, I believe it's the early 50s, late 60s, or something between there. They show some symbology as well on the show that Professor J. Allen Hynek, encountered. And this, by the way, Amy, is very interesting, because on the show, I don't know if how much interaction Hynek had with the Men in Black, but the Men in Black kind of lure Hynek into finding the symbology, and a lot of it is tied to what we were talking about with aliens and UFOs. So when I look at these symbols, I totally see that it's not just the way the people communicated, but it was almost shown to them by maybe higher beings. I'm just putting it out there. It's possible.
All right. Well, this one, is it showing?
Yes.
All right. That is Red Man Lightning Spirit, or the lightning stroke. It stuns. It's a kill shot available to certain immortals. And it's only used a couple of times. Both by this Ottawahiyu who crash landed here. She had the ability, and this goes into King Arthur in America, which is written about extensively. Now, when Ray first started writing about King Arthur, well, it's not America, that word isn't used, but here. I thought, okay, he's really lost it. He's writing about, oh my gosh, King Arthur here. I mean, what are we talking about? And I couldn't find anything on the internet about it. I was kind of worried about it. This would have been in the year like 560 AD. And now you can find all kinds of stuff. There's scholarly debate, was he here during that time? And in the Midwestern part of the United States. So, but anyway, this kill shot is what gets King Arthur here in America. It's by one of the slant-eyed giants, which in Cherokee is Chulkalu. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation.
You're probably doing it better than I would ever.
Okay.
I'd hurt myself trying to pronounce that, so you're doing fine.
There's so much, and I hate to just keep throwing stuff out.
That's okay.
Because it's just a tremendous amount. But that's the kill shot, and it's also used later on by the Queen of Confita, who is also the same person. She appeared as so many different over time. What's the word I want to use? She presented herself as Odin. She was the corn mother that started way up north, all the way down to the tip of South America, and introduced agriculture to the indigenous people. According to this, I'm not saying this is, I'm saying this is what he wrote. And when he started writing about the Queen of Confita, I thought, oh boy, who's ever heard of that? Well, that's a very real thing. with Hernando de Soto. It's historical. Their interaction, of course, what's historically written about their interaction is nothing at all like what Ray wrote as far as their interaction. A small example is historically in his journals that she presented him with the pearls, but these pearls were actually a signaling device. And in Ray's writings, Hernando de Soto snatched the pearls away from her, stole them. But anyway, she also had to do with Hernando de Soto's death. Like I said, there's so much.
So much.
Yeah, and King
do a show
Arthur,
on that.
and then Sam Bass. We'll have to do this again.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, There's so
Definitely. Are you kidding me?
And even getting back to the first book, I want to point out a couple of things. You get introduced to Sam Bass,
Right.
where Adam Troop is sitting and he's with Aunt Effie. The whole middle part of the book is when he's with the Cheyenne Indians and the Battle of Washita. That's something else. It's never called the Battle of Washita in the writings, but I had to figure out that that's what it was because Major Elliott was killed. And it doesn't contradict history, what's written. It goes along with it and it adds like a lot more that they didn't like. In history, you'll read what happened to the bodies, and then they find they're all mutilated. Well, Adam Troop supposedly mutilated them and killed Major Elliott himself.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's all kind. Adam Troop was quite a character. And I have never been able to find any, social security card or something that Adam Troop existed.
He
I'm
existed.
kidding about that.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't found anything yet. So we have that. And there's a chapter toward the end. If you remember in the introduction to the book, I wonder why Adam Troop never sent me and Bob a postcard from Venezuela.
Right. Oh,
You
Venezuela.
you find out. There's a chapter in the Wicked Current called Postcard from Venezuela.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We didn't know what it meant, and now we do. And I'll just you have to read the book.
Absolutely. Buy the book.
Yep.
We'll get to that later.
Okay.
We'll definitely put a plug in for that at the end, Amy. What other symbology do we have?
All right, let me get the second one. Bear with me. Whistle or something while I get symbol 2 happening here.
Do we have a symbol for the dovetail by any chance?
No, there is no symbol for that, but there is. I'm going to get to the one that's used the most, which is symbol 4.
Okay.
And I was mistaken with this one is 4. Let me see. Let me bring that up. Oh, wait, stop share. Is it up there? I can't tell. No, the other one's up there. Okay, stop share. I got to do that first. Come back. Share. There it is. All right. Share.
Yes. This is your Twitter picture, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Your
and
Twitter profile pic.
I made this pretty geometric, but it's written so many times that sometimes the middle part is maybe slanted a little bit. I have it kind of all parallel here, but it's almost like handwriting when you write the same symbol a whole bunch of times, and
right.
Sometimes scribbling it out, and so this is kind of an average of all the times you wrote it. But it's a symbol for. I originally thought it was a symbol for the Nanahi as a whole, which are. I wonder if they're what Sitchin called the Anunnaki. They're here. They're not gods, but they seem like gods to us because they're powerful and they seem immortal because they live so darn long, millenniums. But they're, they burn out like a star. They're not, but they seem immortal to us. But this is, when I reread the later writings, this is actually a symbol for one being. And gosh, another rabbit hole.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm thinking, where do I got to go way back and explain who this is? And he's under the mountains in North Carolina where there's a whole bunch of people. You had Mary Joyce on here, Cherokee Little People.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got her book right here. Oh, where'd it go? Cherokee Little People are real. I read this a few years ago.
And that was one of the questions that I was going to ask you about the fairies.
Yes.
And go ahead and do. We'll get to that in a little bit. We have time, but so this symbol means one people?
This is one individual. What happened is when these, I'll use the word aliens. There was an original set of aliens here. I'm using that word. That isn't what I'll just use that word. They were here. They created mankind. It kind of parallels what Sitchin wrote years in ways, not completely. The Earth had 3 elements that they found out was here, and they created the original people, the natives, the Indians,
Mm-hmm.
and the blacks to harvest this,
Mm-hmm.
hunt it and harvest it for them. Kind of but they got out of control really quick, rebellious lot, all of them, and they were hard to manage. And so they invented a third race, uh, the Orientals, Anadolonige, which is a Cherokee word meaning yellow, the Asian Oriental race, who were supposed to destroy these other two races. But in the meantime, everything was out of control. The people who had to go back to their galaxy, but they left some people in charge here, these Nanahi, these immortals,
Mm-hmm.
in charge of eliminating, and getting things under control here. But they were out of control, power hungry, fighting each other. And so there was supposed to be a relay of these three elements sent out. And so a ship was sent down. They were supposed to meet, but no relay was ever sent with the goods.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Atawahiu, Corn Mother, Quiniquim and this guy, this symbol, were sent to look for, like, what's happened. Where is everybody? What's going on? And this guy, who the symbol, he wasn't, I say guy, loosely. They bring in this big spaceship larger than Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it's hobbled out there in space, hobbled like a horse. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of sitting there parked. And he was supposed to stay with the big ship, but he wanted to come too. So they both came and got stranded here. Part of the message in this book, there's so many parts of the message, but one of them is that ship is still out there, hobbled out. No one's in charge. And if it breaks loose and sweeps through our solar system, we're in big trouble. And so this guy right here needs to get back there.
Wow.
Pronto. Yeah. So that's written about extensively. I put it in very much layman terms and cut to the chase. But there's a lot that's said about that. But he, or, it's referred to as he, is still here. The other one was last seen in 1850s Cherokee Res in Oklahoma, where she disappeared into a rainbow. I don't know if anyone still talks about that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, this is the first time. I just wanted to mention that this is the first time I've heard of anything related to the indigenous people, and you're doing such a fine job, by the way, in my opinion. Because I haven't heard any of these legends, if that's what you want to call
There's
them.
a lot of them, and I mentioned before that I'm not Cherokee. I'd be shocked if I found out that I had any native blood in me at all. So sometimes I feel like it's sort of tap dance around it. It seems like there's some sacred knowledge that maybe they don't, wouldn't appreciate me just running my mouth about it. But at the same time, I would love answers.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, there's what's going on underneath the mountains in North Carolina. That's Mary Joyce, your guest before, has written a lot about that.
Well, we probably can get in touch with her, and if you like.
Oh, I'd love it. I've been in touch with her on and off.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can do that. Definitely. There was a symbol that I brought up in the chat, and I was talking with Suzanne, who's in the chat, by the way, who's loving the show right now. She thinks you're great. You're doing awesome. There's a symbol that looks sort of like a swastika.
Yes, that is a Cherokee good luck symbol. That's, it's not completely a swastika.
Would you mind bringing that
Look
up?
at it. Yeah, let me find it here.
I mean, there's just so many symbols, and
Well, there's 8. There's a lot.
Believe me.
But yeah, let's see. Cherokee.
And going into detail is just awesome, by the way, with all of these.
Oh, I think it's symbol 3. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. All right. So
yeah, that story does sound a lot like the Anunnaki, by the way.
Yeah, there's some similarities.
Very, very much so.
And my dad introduced me to Sitchin. He read all the books, and I read a few of them. All right, let me figure this out again. Okay, stop share. All right. I go to share. I find the symbol. There it is. All right. Will come up.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, that's the one. That Jim Self, who is only mentioned one time in the Wicked Current. I don't know if you remember at the end of Adam talking about the Sam Bass gang, and he goes to that long-winded storytelling, and then he's self-conscious. Oh, I've held you here all day, you know, kind of. Anyway, all I wanted to ask you is, have you heard of a man named Jim Self? And of course, Aunt Effie, she can't bring herself to, because she remembered the molasses and the kettle and all that kind of stuff in Lily May, and the name Self was a little scary. So she lied and said she'd never heard of him. But the Jim Self and Adam Troop are in the Sam Bass gang together. That's later on. But before they rob, the whole incident at Round Rock where Sam Bass is killed, he scribbles this, and good luck. And he also puts it on a pouch. So it's referred to a couple of times, that just wishing him luck. That's
Very interesting. Yeah, and it's very interesting how this symbol, again, you know, it's similar to swastika, and you know, some people will unfortunately, you know, the swastika was used differently,
right,
in Nazi Germany, you know, and of all ways, I found out that the swastika was actually used more in Native American culture, was through comic books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So there's something to be said about how people use that sort of media as well to tell stories that actually are true. It's very, very interesting.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because there's a lot of information in all the writings and the books and everything, but it's not presented like a history book where this happens and this happens and this happens and these are the people involved. It all is in story form and is presented that way. Where was I going with this? Let me put up another symbol here. Let me see, symbol 5. Okay.
I think we can squeeze a few more in. We got
Yeah.
over 10 minutes. So
Okay. All right. Put a couple more in there. Man, time has gone fast.
it flies.
It has. I was so worried. It's like, oh boy, you know.
I wasn't. I knew you were going to be great.
Oh gosh. Okay, here's one. Here we go. Share. All right. That one. All right. There's my explanation. Okay. Some of the stuff, it wasn't blatantly obvious what it meant, but what we figured out and what I wrote was, seems to mean the reserve of strength, power, and artistry to harness and guide the vibe base. I mean, a vibrational base. Vibe base is how it was written in the books. Manipulation of electromagnetic fields and harmonics. It's used by the Cherokee Little People in later writings to levitate objects, including the side of a mountain, to enter the underworld.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a long story about it's in North Carolina. All right. Going back to Mary Joyce. Let's get the next symbol up here. Symbol 6. All right. I'm getting better at
and
this.
These symbols are all tied into what Ray was trying to, well, what Ray wrote down. That's awesome. It's all it all ties together. It's amazing.
It is, and that's the thing that kills me with these writings, is that it is so highly organized that there are things way down the line that refer back to something that happened, you know, tablets and tablets ago. Wait, let's see if this one shows up. Okay, that one come up?
Yes.
Okay, this is the vibe base that is tuned into by the use of the previous symbol. So this is the base, and the previous symbol was the artistry that it takes to deal with that base. And there's a whole thing, the Cherokee Little People, there's a whole long thing about trying to make this brief as possible, but just them in a group of 6 dealing with this vibe base and how it can get out of control, and they have to rein it back in. And if they, it talks about the artistry of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get to the last. There's 2 more. I'll get to them real quick. Maybe, oh, stop share. Okay, you gotta help me out here. Stop share. All right.
It's funny because I know people are listening to the podcast are saying, what is going on?
I know.
Well, you got to tune into the live show or the YouTube channel and you'll find out. That's all I can tell you.
Here we go. And I go back to this. Share. Okay, wait. I don't know if I got that one. What's showing? Well,
showing a lot.
Okay.
Now we can
is
see
that the
your
one
desktop.
with the 3 things next to each other? Is that showing?
Yes.
Okay. This is genetic attributes referring to certain powers possessed by the immortals. Okay, genetic attributes. Also refers to history implanted into certain immortals, giving them like a download. History implanted into certain immortals, giving them timeless wisdom, also called, and this is a quote, a culture base.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, your base, it's a starting point with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And yeah, when all right, well, I'll do the last symbol before I get into that explanation. Because these symbols I would love, I haven't found them anywhere, and I haven't found anyone who has ever seen them before. Okay, now, oh wait, stop share.
You're actually sharing right now. And we were seeing that. You had it up.
Oh, what do you?
Oh,
it's up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that is the one that we don't know.
It was up. Now it's not up.
Okay. What did I do?
And once you get there, you might want to hit the little box to enlarge it so we can see it a little bit better. Okay. We got to share.
Is it showing?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the one that we couldn't figure out. This symbol is used only once. This is what I wrote on the website I used to have up. Not sure of the meaning. Guesses are ultimate destruction of Earth to traveling outside of body and celestial realm. It's very unclear. Like I said, if anyone's seen this before, I would love to know. So those are all the symbols. There's 8 of them.
That's fascinating. One of the things that I wanted to kind of get across before we end the show is the message that Ray was trying to, the people were trying to convey to Ray is something that was that you had mentioned is in the writings was dire. Like there's something that mankind needs to know.
One of them was the hobbled out larger than Earth spaceship, but that is not all of it. A lot of it goes on the back of the book.
Mm-hmm.
When I was trying to figure out, I was designing the book, trying to figure out what to put on the back of the book. You have to figure this out. You pick up a book, there's stuff on the back. So I'm sitting there at the computer trying to figure that out. And he walks over and goes, this is what you need to put on the back of the book. And he sat there and went into a trance and started talking. And I'm typing as fast as I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's that whole paragraph there. This first book in a series, which is The Wicked Current, looks, and this isn't the way he spoke at all. Oh my gosh, no. This first book in a series looks like an innocent barrier to a foundation with no bearing to the foundation of the heavy books that will follow in sequence, the later writings. These are the books bearing the message, for that is in search of the individuals, I think all the immortals, who will lead to the individual who will not just save the planet Earth's ecological system or the universe it resides in, but the universe that run like infinity. I'm taking that as they're looking for these two. It's like you have to get back there, but also, if you look at the later writings, there seems to be a big warning about the destruction of mankind coming from us. That there is that this whole thing that started a gazillion years ago with wanting to destroy man altogether, it's never over. It's been ongoing this whole entire time since we've been on this earth.
Right.
The elimination, it talks about the grays and the pales, demons. It goes back to Ramses II, who they are, they're immortals, original Mason ring. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And on the cover of the book, the man who's holding his hand in the fire and the other hand is extended upward. He's gaining power from that fire, as Captain Collahu, who does a long narration, and he's wearing an original, if not the original, Mason ring in the story, which has the formula for the immortals to sustain their life. That's what it says. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting take.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot more.
I think this has been an awesome beginning to definitely having you back on. And
I am thrilled. I am so happy this went okay. I really was so nervous thinking, oh, we're never going to fill that time.
Oh, this has been this has been great. This has been a fascinating discussion.
So
And I really think that this is definitely a beginning to, I'm looking forward to reading the next few books. Can you give us some more information about when we can, or well, first of all, where can we find The Wicked Current?
It's on Amazon and Kindle and book form. And I've seen you run little contests. I'll give away a couple free copies. I don't know how you work that, but
oh, excellent.
Little contest. Yeah. And just you can email me the addresses, whoever wins, however you do that. That'd be fine.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that, and we'll figure something out for the
That'd be
audience.
great.
So
All right.
all you listening right now, I'll tell you what, if you in the next couple of minutes, first person that emails Dave at beyondthestrange.com, let me know that you heard this, and I'll talk to Amy, and we'll see about getting you a free copy of the book. Does that
And I'd
sound
like
right?
to say, yeah. And as far as people listening, if there's any questions you have, or maybe suggestions for what we do next time, my email address is easy, wickedcurrent@yahoo. I've had that since all this. So it's going on a long time, 20 years. Hard to believe it's been 20 years. But I'd be glad to see what you have to say, and any information you might have too.
That's fantastic.
All right.
Amy, I want to thank you again for being on the show. We'll
thank you.
definitely
I've
have you
enjoyed it.
back. Yeah.
Love it.
Oh yeah, this has been great. So remember, those of you listening right now, send me an email, dave@beyondstrange.com, and first person that sends me that email, I'll talk to Amy about getting you a copy of The Wicked Current. One more time, Amy, how do we find you on social media? Get in touch with you, kind of thing.
Oh, I have Twitter. It's Wicked Current 1. Amy at Wicked Current 1, and that email address. I don't really do Facebook. I guess I should start. Like I said, my first posting was your reposting yours. So yeah, that'd be fine too. I'll start checking Facebook. That'd be all right.
Awesome. Thanks again, Amy. We really
right,
appreciate it. And
have a good night.
Hang out. Don't go away. I'm going to end the show,
okay.
and appreciate everything. Definitely have to have you back.
Love it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, everyone. That's all the time we have. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I want to thank Amy one more time. This has been an awesome show, and I really appreciate everything. We'll definitely have her back, hopefully to talk about more about those other books coming soon. All right. Beyond the Strange is owned and copyrighted by Dave Cruz. It cannot be simulcast, rebroadcasted, or copied without written consent of Beyond the Strange. Also, the views and opinions are not necessarily that of Beyond the Strange, hosts, guests, and affiliated networks. Listeners are encouraged to conduct research and formulate their own opinions. Executive producer and creator of Beyond the Strange is Dave Cruz. Co-executive producer is Deb J. Cruz. Disclaimer and voice work by Casper Parks. Visit Casper Parks at casperparks.com. Music by Alan Hall. And Zebrafish, visit soundcloud.com/Zebrafish. And thanks to everyone reposting on Twitter and Facebook for the show. And next week, Sebastian Martin comes back to the show. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be great. Until then, everyone, thanks again. Stay safe, stay strange, and hasta.